What up YouTube? Today is Saturday, January 12th, 2019, and today we're in New York City. We have one mission, and that is to get some cool urban and street photos. We're excited. We're about to get to it, but first we gotta get some breakfast. This bagel shop's like right across from the hotel, and I literally intentionally booked this hotel because it's right next to this bagel shop. It's incredible. Look at this.
That's girth level 9,000.
Unfortunately, we had to check out of the hotel today because I'm driving home tonight back to Boston. But right now we're dropping off our bags at Nick's brother's apartment right now. And then after that, we're gonna grab some brunch with them.
Now when the lights turn out, on focus, overdose, slow, hope, don't choke this, lucid psychosis, kitty cat.
What up, Kyle? Good morning.
Get the most so
Now when the lights turn out, I'm focused. Overdose, slow, hope, don't choke this. Lucid psychosis, kitty cat broke it. Kick it out slow, get the most so flocious. We about both keep it going.
Alright, we got a little bit distracted right there after brunch, but I just made it to Brooklyn. I'm gonna run around, shoot a couple photos, see if I can get some good footage as well, so let's get right to it. If you spend any time on Instagram at all, you'll know that this spot right behind me is one of the most over-photographed places in the entire world. I'm not gonna stay here to shoot the sunset just because I'm assuming in about 45 minutes, this entire patch of ground behind me is gonna be filled with about 50 to 100 photographers just because everybody loves shooting this spot and it's like an iconic spot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna head down towards the Manhattan Bridge and shoot arguably an equally as iconic shot of the Manhattan Bridge, but I'm assuming that there's gonna be a couple less people there just because the sunset is a little bit better in this spot rather than the one that I wanna head to.
Why are you so close?
There were so many people in there that it wasn't even remotely worth trying to get a photo. There was literally probably 100 or 200 people just sitting in the middle of the street, hanging out, trying to get their own photos with their cell phones and stuff. So I'm gonna audible, I'm gonna head up onto the Brooklyn Bridge, walk across it, and see if I can get any cool photos from up there. Finally made it to the bridge. It was a way longer walk than I thought it was gonna be. So the sun is officially setting, so I don't have much more time, so I'm gonna get on the bridge and try to take advantage of the sunset while it's still going on. As usual, I'm shooting on the Fuji 35mm f2 lens, and I'm also probably gonna shoot some photos on this lens, which is the Panasonic G9 with the 8 to 18mm Leica Panasonic lens. I'll show you the photos in a little bit, but for now, I'm gonna get onto the bridge and try to get a couple shots while the sun is still up. Let's go. One of the things that I'm beginning to notice is that it's way more fun to shoot like the really obscure side streets and back roads and things like that, rather than the really vast landscapes and cityscapes. Right now, I'm wrapping things up. I think I'm gonna head back and meet up with my friends. And it's looking like, just because it's getting so late, that I'm probably gonna have to crash here for the night. But I'll be driving back to Boston tomorrow so I can throw these pictures on my computer, edit them together, and then once we do that, I'll be back to the camera. See you in a bit. What up YouTube? We are finally back in Boston. It's been about 4 weeks since I was back here, so I'm super happy to be back with my roommates and everything. I really love traveling for work, but you know, sometimes you just wanna be home, chilling out and not doing anything for a couple of days. One of the things that I mentioned there a couple minutes ago is that I've been really enjoying shooting like the really obscure side streets and back roads in the city rather than the big cityscapes and landscapes. I think part of the reason for that is because whenever I'm in the Brooklyn area shooting at the New York skyline, it just feels like I'm taking the same photo that a million people before me have taken. This is partially true. I mean, there's literally millions of photos of the New York skyline taken by thousands and thousands of photographers. The one thing that I want to note, and the one thing that's really important though, is that by using your creativity and your imagination, you still can create original photos in very unoriginal places like that. Walking down the bridge a couple days ago, I was taking a bunch of pictures of the skyline as well as the Brooklyn Bridge itself, and quite frankly, I just wasn't really happy with what I was coming up with. So what I started to do was look around at the different subjects and the different foreground objects around me to see what I could incorporate into my shot to enhance it a little bit and to get a little bit more of a creative photo rather than just shooting the skyline or the Brooklyn Bridge itself. The one thing that I was starting to notice was that there was a ton of cars moving super slow down the bridge just because it was like 4:30 or 5 o'clock and it was rush hour in the city. What I noticed and what I started thinking was that all these taxis are going down the street, and how cool would it be if I could get 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 taxis lined up in a formation, giving me a little bit of a leading line going up to Freedom Tower. So that's exactly what I did. I started waiting, just kind of leaning over the handrail on the Brooklyn Bridge, and I stood there for about 5 or 6 minutes waiting for the perfect formation of taxis to show up. Eventually 3 taxis almost perfectly in formation lined up, and so I frantically snapped like 10 or 12 photos super quick, and I ended up actually getting a photo that I'm super happy with, and I'll show it to you right here. For those of you out there that are interested in what gear I took this with, I took it with the Fuji X-T2 and the 35mm f2 lens. It's an awesome setup. I know I made a video about it a couple weeks ago that a lot of people really liked. I'd absolutely recommend this lens all day long, and anybody who shoots on a Fujifilm camera absolutely should purchase this lens. The moral of the story at the end of the day is that as a photographer, oftentimes you end up in these locations that have been photographed by thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of other photographers. The one thing that you need to keep in your mind though is that even though it's been photographed by all of these people, using your creativity and your imagination, you can still come up with a very original photo in these locations that have been massively over-photographed. Another example of this lesson is this right here. So a couple days earlier in the week, I was doing my best to get a photo of the Empire State Building, and I was really struggling to do so. None of the compositions were really working out, and I didn't really like how any of my photos were coming out. So what I decided to do was start introducing foreground objects into the pictures with the Empire State Building in the background. I tried a number of street photos, trying to get a person in the foreground. I also took a couple portraits of Nick, but the one that I really liked the most is this picture right here. There was an undercover police car sitting pretty much right in front of the Empire State Building in almost the perfect spot. And again, using my 35mm lens, I was able to get down super low and take a picture of that police car right in front of the Empire State Building, and I think that this picture came out awesome. So I have a couple more photos from this trip that I'd love to show you, but I'm gonna be traveling over the next couple of weeks, and so what I'd like to do is make some sort of like a photo recap video to talk a little bit about the other photos that I took on this trip. Let me know in the comments below if that's something that you'd like to see, or if maybe you'd prefer to see a little bit of a video about how I edit my photos, or maybe even a video about what gear I use to take my photos. As always, leave your comments in the comment section below to let me know what you'd like to see in the next video. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to the channel. It really helps out a ton. Thank you a ton for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Now when the lights turn out, I'm focused. Overdose, slow poke, don't choke this. It's a psychosis. Kitty cat broke it. Kick it out, smoke it.